I want you to think about the last time you checked your bank account and your stomach dropped. That feeling like you've done something wrong, even when you've been trying your best. If you know that feeling, you're in the right place. Welcome back to Gran Betty's kitchen. It's a bit calmer here than the rest of the internet, isn't it? No flashing red countdown timers, no strangers yelling at you to grind harder. No one telling you that if you just wake up at 4 a.m, you'll suddenly become a millionaire. Just a warm seat at the table. And before we begin, if this video brings you even a little bit of calm today, if it makes money feel less scary and more manageable, please tap like. It helps this little corner of the internet reach more people who need a soft place to land. Gran Betty used to say, if someone is shouting about money, they probably don't have much peace with it. And honestly, the older I get, the more I realize she was right. Because most modern financial advice doesn't feel like help. It feels like a heavy bag of bricks. It's always, cut everything. Never buy coffee again. Cancel every subscription. Stop enjoying your life until you're debt-free. And the thing is, that might work on paper. But real life isn't paper. Real life is birthdays. Real life is a boiler breaking in the middle of winter. Real life is your car making a noise that sounds like it's coughing up a demon. So we're doing something different here. We're not chasing the loud kind of wealth that looks good online. We're building the quiet kind. The kind that still holds steady when the news is bad, the bills are high, and life does what life does. And by the end of this video, you'll have a simple 3-jar system you can start today, even if you've only got a few pounds spare, and a debt approach that doesn't require you to hate your life. Gran Betty's whole philosophy was built around something so simple it almost feels ridiculous. A jar. On her pantry shelf, nestled between the flour and the tea caddy, she kept a large clear glass jar. To most people, it looked empty. To her, it looked like freedom. She called it her empty jar. But what she really meant was a place where peace can start growing. And in the modern world, your jar might not be glass at all. It might be a savings pot in your banking app, a separate account, a literal jar on your dresser, an envelope in a drawer, even a tin in the kitchen cupboard. The point isn't what it looks like. The point is that it exists. Because Gran Betty understood something most people skip right past. If you don't have a place for peace to go, it can't arrive. A quick story. I remember one afternoon when my car made a noise that sounded like a small animal screaming. 2 days later, the mechanic handed me the verdict. £240. Now I know £240 doesn't sound like the end of the world. But in that moment, it felt like it. I remember sitting there, staring at my bank balance, doing that awful mental math we all do. The kind where you're not calculating money, you're calculating dread. And I could feel it in my body. Tight chest, hot face. That sick feeling that says, here we go again. I was frantic, refreshing my bank app like money might magically appear if I refreshed hard enough. And the worst part? I wasn't even irresponsible. I just didn't have a system. I had hope. And hope is not a financial plan. Gran Betty didn't panic. She didn't tell me to manifest abundance. She didn't tell me to take out another credit card. She just pointed to her jar. She'd been dropping in £2 here, 50p there for months. Not dramatically, not with a big speech, just quietly. And she said, it's not the amount that matters, love. It's the habit of looking forward. Then she gave me another one of her little lines. One I still hear in my head whenever I'm tempted to give up. Little and often, and you'll outrun panic. That was her quiet power. Not the power of a huge income. Not the power of luck. The power of a tiny habit that says, I am the kind of person who prepares. So here's your first actionable tip, and I want you to hear it clearly. Start your jar small enough that your brain doesn't argue with you. Not, I'm going to save £500 a month starting tomorrow. More like £1 a day, £10 a month, £5 a week, even 50p whenever you remember. Because Gran Betty knew something most people miss. £10 saved with intention is worth more than £100 saved in panic. When you start small, you're not just saving money, you're changing your identity. You stop being a person who just survives, and you become a person who builds. Now here's where her system gets truly brilliant. Gran Betty didn't have one jar, she had 3. And when I first saw them, I thought it was just her being quirky. But it wasn't quirky. It was genius. The first jar was the unexpected. That was for car repairs, broken boilers, dentists, shoes that split in the rain. The second jar was the expected. And this one made me laugh because she said, people act like Christmas is a surprise every year. Birthdays, Christmas dinner, school uniforms, annual insurance. Those costs that are completely predictable, but still wipe people out. And the third jar? The third jar was the joy jar. That was for strawberries in summer. That was for a £3.40 treat that made her feel like life was still worth living. And I need you to hear this part, because it's one of the biggest reasons people fail with money. Gran Betty did not remove joy to become financially stable. She protected joy so she could stay financially stable. Because when your budget is all pain and no pleasure, you will rebel against it. You'll crack. You'll binge spend. You'll think, what's the point? And you'll end up right back where you started. Except now you're miserable too. Gran Betty used to say, a life with no treats is just a longer punishment. So here's your next actionable tip, and you can do this today. Create 3 money pots, even if they're tiny. Unexpected, emergency. Expected, upcoming predictable costs. Joy, small treats that keep you sane. Even if you start with £5 a month to unexpected, £5 a month to expected, £2 a month to joy. That's not silly. That's a system. And a system is what saves you when motivation disappears. Now, pause for 1 second and be honest with yourself. Which jar do you need the most right now? The unexpected jar because life keeps happening. The expected jar because you're always surprised by things you knew were coming. Or the joy jar because you're exhausted and you need something small to look forward to. Just knowing the answer to that is already progress. And if you're still here, I just want to say, I'm really glad you are. Tap like if this is the kind of money advice you want more of. Gentle, practical, and shame-free. Now let's talk about debt, gently. Because most debt advice online is loud, aggressive, full of words like attack your debt, crush your debt, destroy your debt. And maybe that works for some people. But Gran Betty took a completely different path. She believed debt wasn't a moral failing. It wasn't proof you were lazy. It wasn't proof you were bad with money. It was just a sign you needed a new direction. She used to say, you can't hate your way to a happy life, and you can't shame your way to a full purse. And I'll be honest with you. I used to think shame was useful. I thought if I felt bad enough, I'd finally change. I thought if I punished myself hard enough, I'd become disciplined. But all shame did was make me scared to look at my bank account. It made me avoid. And avoidance is expensive. I remember having a credit card balance of £850 that felt like an unmovable mountain. Every time I saw the number, I'd feel sick. So I'd do the only thing my nervous system knew how to do. I'd ignore it. Now, stay with me, because this next part is one of Gran Betty's best lessons, and it's the one that works best in the modern world. Money used to be visible. You'd hand over cash. You'd watch it leave. You'd feel the weight of it. Now? We tap a card, we swipe a phone, we click a button, and the money disappears like it never existed. Gran Betty used to say, if you don't see it leave, you won't feel it go. And she was right. So here's an actionable tip you can do in under 5 minutes. Make your money visible again. If you use digital banking, rename your savings pots. Call one, the emergency peace pot. Call another, the Sunday roast fund. Call another, Christmas isn't a surprise. It sounds silly, But it works. Because when your money has a name, it has a purpose, and when it has a purpose, you stop spending it like it's meaningless. Gran Betty's version was jars. Ours is labelled pots. Same wisdom, different century. And now I want to give you one of Gran Betty's most underrated rules, because this one saves people from so much regret. She called it the 24-hour pause. If it wasn't food, medicine, or something urgent, she'd wait a day. Not to punish herself, not to be strict, just to let the craving pass. Most of the time she'd wake up and realize she didn't even want it anymore. And the few times she still wanted it, she'd buy it without guilt because it was a choice, not a reflex. Gran Betty used to say, if you still want it tomorrow, it's probably yours. If you forget it by tea time, it never was. So here's your actionable tip for this week. Try a 24-hour pause on one purchase. Just one. And put that money into your jar instead. Even if it's £6, even if it's £3. Because what you're really practicing is not saving. You're practicing not being controlled. Now here's something else she taught me that changed my relationship with spending. To Gran Betty, financial freedom was never about having a pile of gold. It was about having less to worry about. She lived sustainably long before it was trendy. She found real abundance in a home-cooked meal. In a garden she'd tended herself. In a warm cup of tea. In a home that felt calm. She taught me that true wealth is having the health, the time, and the clarity to invest in yourself and your relationships. So here's another actionable tip. And this one might change how you feel about spending forever. Start categorizing some spending as investment, not guilt. If you spend £60 on a course that teaches you a skill, that's not reckless. That's you expanding your earning power. If you spend £20 on a healthy lunch with a dear friend, that's not wasting money. That's you investing in your relationships. If you buy a £12 notebook and you actually use it to plan your week and calm your mind, that's not a silly purchase. That's mental clarity. And mental clarity is priceless. Gran Betty used to say, if it makes you steadier, it makes you richer. Now, there's one more piece of her wisdom that might be the smallest, but it has the biggest impact long term. She called it the legacy of language. Instead of saying, I can't afford that, she would say, that isn't what my jar is for right now. It sounds like nothing, but it changes everything. Because I can't afford that makes you feel powerless. Like money is something that happens to you. But that isn't what my jar is for makes you the decision maker. It turns your finances from a prison into a plan. So here's your actionable tip for this week. Replace I can't afford that with that's not what I'm building right now, or even that's not in my jars today. It keeps your dignity intact. It keeps your goals intact. And it keeps you from spiraling into that familiar feeling of lack. Now, let's make this practical in a way you can actually do today. I want you to do this with me. If you're able, open your banking app. Don't panic. Don't judge yourself. Just look. If you can create one pot in under a minute, you're already doing better than yesterday. And if you can't do it today, that's okay. You're still learning how to be safe with money. Gran Betty used to say, you don't learn to bake bread by shouting at the dough. Now here's something else that matters. It's not the big disasters that ruin most people. It's the small surprises. The £27 here. The £60 there. The, oh no, I forgot about that costs. And that's why the expected jar is so powerful. Because it stops your life from feeling like a constant ambush. Now, I want you to hear this part. Because I know some of you are watching this with a tight chest, thinking you're behind, thinking you've messed it up, thinking you've left it too late. Your journey to financial serenity starts today. And it starts gently. Not with a total life overhaul. Not with punishment. Not with panic. Just with one quiet act of care. Maybe today, you find your own empty jar. A physical one. A digital one. Anything. And you put your first £1 in it. Or maybe you look at one specific debt and decide to pay £5 extra this month. Not as a punishment, as a gift, as proof that you're moving toward peace. And if you want something really simple to remember, here's your Gran Betty kitchen table plan for this week. Step 1. Create your jar or pot. Step 2. Put in your first small amount. Step 3. Label 3 categories: unexpected, expected, joy. Step 4. Choose one debt and pay a tiny extra amount. Step 5. Rename one savings pot so money feels visible again. Step 6. Use the 24-hour pause on one purchase. That's it. No panic, no punishment, no pretending you can become a different person overnight. Just small steps that build a calm life. And if you want a little boost of hope, let me give you a realistic number. If you save £10 a week, that's about £520 a year. That's a car repair without panic. That's Christmas without debt. That's the difference between I'm fine and actually being fine. And it doesn't require a miracle, it requires a jar. Now, before you go, I want you to picture something with me. What would you do with your days if you didn't have that heavy cloud of debt hanging over you? If you weren't constantly bracing for the next bill? If you weren't scared to check your balance? Hold on to that image. That's what your jar is really holding. Not coins, not numbers. A future where you can breathe. And I'd love for us to build a community here. One that isn't about shame or flexing, but about quiet progress. So tell me in the comments, what are you building toward? And to make it easy, comment one word: unexpected, expected, or joy. And tell me what yours would be. Is your joy jar strawberries? A book? A candle? A cafe treat once a month? Because joy isn't the enemy of financial progress. It's often what makes progress possible. And I'll leave you with one last Gran Betty line, the one that still makes me feel calmer every time I hear it. Money is meant to serve you, love, not scare you. If this video helped you, please tap like. It genuinely tells YouTube to show this to more people who need calm, realistic money advice. Subscribe for more Gran Betty's money wisdom and watch the full playlist on the main channel. However, today feels financially. You're not bad with money, you're just under-supported. And we're building something steadier now, one small jar at a time. You're allowed to rest here for a moment.